What is cracking, everybody? You're back with Mr. Berger. Tonight I'm going to share with you guys a few replays of recent matches that got me up to Masters League, which is 4,900 trophies and above. So this is the first time that I've gotten this high before in trophies, and so I figured I would make a video out of it, showcasing some of the most recent matches, you know, how they went, and kind of do one of those videos where I focus more on the specific matches and the decision making that I do and how I won the matches rather than breaking down the deck. And if you're looking for more of a deck breakdown, you know, kind of a deck showcase video that discusses how to play this deck, then I've discussed this deck on a previous video, the Hog Lightning OP video, and I'll be sure to link that one in a card, and you can definitely check it out in my channel if you're looking for it. So again, if you're looking for more specific tips, go ahead and check that one out, but this one's going to be a little bit more just like playing the deck itself. So as we can see here, we're going up against a lot of high-level cards. Now I'll be playing against, you know, level 13 players and level 12 players, and it's something that I've noticed a lot lately is that since they kind of tweaked the trophy reset count, so now that rather than resetting down to like 4,000 trophies unless you're, you know, 4,900 and above, it cuts them in half above 4,000. You know, they did this a few patches ago. Since they did that, it's definitely a lot easier to push, and you're going to be going up against opponents that are, you know, lower level than what they would have been before at that same trophy count, their cards and their king level. So in this particular match, this is actually the one that got me, or one of the ones that got me right up to 4,900. And I did it twice. I lost a few in a row after I got up there, and then I got back up to it again, and so it was pretty good. Anyway, so we can see this is an interesting deck, and it doesn't have too much of a like core win condition, it looks like, but it definitely looks like he's playing on a kind of a control deck. You notice he's running P.E.K.K.A. and Mini P.E.K.K.A., so he's got a lot of like control, kind of counter push, and a lot of heavy hitters in this deck. He's got the Ice Wizard as a support card, so he's consistently using the P.E.K.K.A. to shut down my Hog. And that works out pretty well, because if he places the P.E.K.K.A. down in the perfect spot, then it'll completely shut down the Hog without it allowing to get any swings off on the tower. Now, as you guys remember, this deck does have an element of Zap Bait in it, so you'll notice there that I used the Goblin Gang and then he zapped it, and then I was able to safely use the bats to kind of chip away at the P.E.K.K.A. there, and I just used the Knight to tank for them, for the P.E.K.K.A. rather, and I placed the Knight a little bit further away so that the P.E.K.K.A. doesn't just immediately swing onto the Knight right away. I want her to have to walk a little ways, and in the meantime the tower and the bats, or the tower and the Mega Minion in that last scenario, are going to be, you know, doing a bunch of damage to the P.E.K.K.A. Since the bats and the Mega Minion are area units, they are not going to be damaged by the P.E.K.K.A. herself, so I don't have to worry about that. So at this point, I'm kind of just like playing it safe. I see the Witch there, and I use the Lightning. You generally want to use Lightning when you can get value from it, like positive or equal value with it. And that one was technically negative because, oh, look at that defensive Hog there. I posted that one on Reddit. If you guys missed it, go ahead and check that one out. But anyway, using the Witch, that's definitely negative because it's a 5 for 6 trade. You know, me using the 6 and using the 5, but I do get chip damage off on the tower, and it also completely shuts down his Witch, you know, which completely takes it out of the situation from him allowing to be able to potentially build up a push. And it looks like he's kind of playing this like a P.E.K.K.A. beatdown deck, which is kind of outdated. You don't see it so much anymore. P.E.K.K.A. is more of a control card these days, although back in the past you could definitely play her like a beatdown card. So it doesn't work out too well for him, but you know, if he's gotten this high with it, he must be doing something right. So it's giving me a run for my money. You notice that he's always able to use the log there. He is running log and zap, so he's always got the log to be able to answer my Goblin Gang, assuming that he doesn't waste it on like an emergency situation to defend against the Hog. And at this point, I got enough chip damage off onto the tower with the Hog getting 2 swings there and the Lightning that I just need to play hard defense, make sure that I can live. And what I'll do in a situation like this is I'll be cycling my cheapest cards, just trying to get them out of my hand, so that I can cycle back quicker and quicker to whatever I need to finish off the tower, in this case being the Lightning. So I'm using, you know, the Goblin Gang and the Ice Spirit and the Bats and things like that, rather than spending my elixir on like another Hog Rider, for instance. Alright guys, this is the one that got me to Masters League the first time. So, as I mentioned, I got up there twice, and then I lost a few, or I got up there once, lost a few, and then got up there again. So, twice in the long run. I love that new emote there, the Musketeer. I really like the Musketeer and the Bandit ones, of the free ones that we got.
those two are definitely my more favorite ones. I mean, I'm quite satisfied with all the emotes, but those two are pretty funny. Right, so this is an interesting match because you'll notice that he does have the bowler, and the bowler doesn't completely shut down the Hog Rider unless it's like perfect placement and good level. But in this particular matchup, since this bowler's only level 11 and my Hog Rider's level 13, then it doesn't completely shut it down. But either way, it usually does a pretty solid job of shutting down a Hog Rider. If it doesn't completely destroy him before it connects to the tower, then it can usually get him down. Well, the Hog Rider only gets like one swing offer. So now it is a heavy unit. It does cost 5 elixir. So every time that he uses it, he invests pretty heavily into it. But then it's a big, heavy lumbering guy that takes a lot of damage. It's very tanky, so it provides a pretty heavy threat on offense as well. So once he's used it to defend, I gotta watch out for the offense. He's running guards too, which is another relatively off-meta card right now. They were meta for a bit when they got buffed, and it's not like they got nerfed since then. But I think people just generally prefer like Goblin Gang and stuff because of the ranged spear goblins and just the other alternatives being a little bit better. But guards are still really solid. They only cost 3 elixir, and it's that pretty reliable chip damage, relatively swarmy unit, and they've got that shield effect, which is pretty unique. There's not too many units other than those guys and the Royal recruits and like the Dark Prince that have it. And it's not like you see Royal recruits anymore at this point until they get buffed, probably, right? Maybe by the time you're watching this video, they'll have received that buff, and they will definitely be meta again. But at the moment, you haven't seen them for a while. So the guards have that shield effect, and again, that can be really beneficial because it can survive literally anything. It can survive a rocket to the face, and they'll still live in their skeleton form. I love using that Hog Rider on defense there. Not fully on defense, I'm using it on offense, but you'll notice that you can use it relatively defensively, as you saw earlier with the Mini P.E.K.K.A. and just there with that Barbarian, because slower melee units are going to chase the Hog Rider, and so you can kind of use it to kite a little bit, and you want to be a little bit careful with it, because you definitely don't want to allow them to get a bunch of swings off on your Hog Rider and chip away at it just because you placed it right in front of them. So you want to place it in a place generally where they'll be chasing it, and it'll run across the bridge or hop across the bridge, and they'll stop chasing it while it's midair. Hop across the river, not the bridge. While it's midair, they'll stop chasing it, and then they'll land and they'll keep chasing it. And this gives you the potential to use the Hog as kind of a defensive tool, a very heavy kiting unit, and it works out pretty well. And then of course it goes on to do some offensive damage on their tower. And he wasted his arrows there. Either that or he pretty much gave up and was like, alright, I'm not going to be able to do anything. So again, you'll notice that I'm using my cheaper cards to try to cycle back. Like here I decide to use the bats rather than anything else, and then I use the lightning on his tower, and he actually almost manages to get me there at the very end, but I just got to cycle back to that lightning and then use that lightning there, and that is it. GG. Let's move on to another replay. Alright guys, this one is against the classic bait deck. If I'm not mistaken, this guy is actually running literally the classic bait lineup, with knight and inferno tower and everything. We'll double check as we get into his cards here, but either way, this is one of the ones that allowed me to climb. This isn't the one that got me above 4,900, but got me kind of in between 48 and 4,900. We gotta watch out here because oftentimes I have the Zap, and it's been over leveled. It's one of the first cards that I over leveled. I got to max level, and when they use their Goblin Barrel, I'll be able to zap it and instantly kill it. But this guy has a max level Goblin Barrel. He's got a lot of max cards. I think he has a max Princess too, so I'm not able to zap his Goblin Barrel. I mean, I am, but it doesn't fully destroy it. So he's always going to get some chip damage off on my tower with the Goblin Barrel, unless I answer it with something else and I'm somehow able to completely shut it down. But with the Zap alone, that's not going to cut it. Alright, you can see here, this was kind of a misplay on his part. He used the rocket to get some chip damage, but he tried to hit that Mega Minion and just completely whiffed it. So that was unfortunate for him, but either way, he stayed in the fight. We all make mistakes, and it's okay to slip up once like that sometimes, and be able to still definitely pull it together and come back from that win the match. But that definitely gave me a little bit of an advantage here. You can see that I was able to invest a lot more elixir there into an offensive push because he had invested, a lot of his, 6 elixir into that rocket there, so he wasn't able to defend it quite as well. And that Mega Minion gets a lot of value there, finishing that off on defense with the Ice Spirit, getting that Knight, and then going off, proceeding to destroy that Princess as well. Now at this point I'm just cycling cards in the back. I like to cycle my Goblin Gang or my bats in the back when I'm kind of looking for something to do and I don't have much else to do and one of those is in my hand. And then I'll usually send in a hog if I have it in hand right before they cross the bridge there, kind of use the hog to tank for them and get some damage off on the tower and have a little bit of support as well. And here you'll see that he's often using the princess in the right lane. He's often trying to protect it, and that's a good thing that you definitely need to keep in mind when you're doing for bait matchups, or for bait decks, excuse me, if you're playing deck. A bait deck is you want to keep that princess alive. So this guy exemplifies that really well because he's often supporting it. He almost never just places a princess willy-nilly. He tries to use good placement and good timing to try to keep it alive, get some chip damage off with it, or put it in the back and then allow it to live for a very long time. But regardless, I'm putting a lot of pressure on the left here, and I can know that I have a bit of an elixir advantage here, and I have some stuff on offense, so I'm kind of just going for it, putting a lot of pressure on the left. I decided to go for the lightning there to just finish off the tower, and I just have to play hard defense. I got a little bit scared here because I knew that he had the knight tanking for the goblin barrel, and if the goblins aren't dying, they do a ton of damage. They can take out a tower in just a few seconds. So that was pretty much it for the tower. If I didn't answer it in time, it would have been as good as gone. Alright guys, this is another kind of funky deck, funky matchup. He's got a lot of splash cards. He's got 2 mini tanks with the bandit and the knight. He's got the wizard, the ice wizard, excuse me, and the executioner and the witch. But regardless, this is one of those matches that kind of got me up there. And look at that placement of the knight. I placed it kind of accidentally. I wasn't thinking about it too much, but it worked out really well because I got it so that it was close enough that the bandit didn't get a charge off on it, but far enough away that she still had to run up to it. So it worked out pretty well. I used the lightning there trying to get the ice wizard and whatever he placed down first, but then he placed down both of those units, the knight and the prince there, and so they kind of soaked up the lightning there. But either way, it got some chip damage off on the tower, and I used the Goblin Gang on defense there, and they do a great job of defending against the prince and the knight. And then again here, you can see, I think I use a hog here pretty soon. No, that might have been another matchup. Anyway, where I actually used the hog to defend again on as like a defensive unit, causing the bandit to chase it, using it as kind of a kite, as I was talking about earlier. I believe that we will see that again in this matchup, so we'll hang tight to see what happens. Either way, we got the Mega Minion. I love that card. It's just been a really strong, consistent card for a long time. It did get a minor nerf recently, but it's still really strong. It's still really viable. It's still a great card, and I definitely recommend having it in your deck and over-leveling it. It's a card that's really worth getting into, leveling up. So, again on defense here, you'll notice that I'm able to use the bats, and I don't have to worry about them dying to his knight, or from his knight, because they're air units, so they chip away at that knight, and it kind of forces him to use an air counter, which he does there, the executioner. But either way, it doesn't matter too much. Oh, here's that defensive hog. There we go. Uses the bandit, causes the bandit, excuse me, to dash back to the Hog Rider, and then the hog, tanks for it, allowing the Mega Minion to finish it off, and then the Hog Rider proceeds to go on to offense and get some chip damage off on that tower there, a few swings off there, 1 or 2 at least. But anyway, yeah, that Mega Minion, awesome card, definitely recommend it. It's a great card to level up and put in just about any deck, fits into a lot of decks. So I don't usually use just the knight and the Hog Rider like that, but you kind of can. You can use that as kind of a similar play to the Ice Golem, and then putting a Hog right behind it. So you put the Ice Golem right at the bridge, and then the Hog right behind it, and then the Ice Golem dies to any swarm units like Skeleton Army, and will destroy them around it. So definitely a great combo. But if I do have the knight that I use something on defense, use him on defense for something, and then he's proceeding against the enemy to go across the bridge there, then I will definitely place a hog behind him and use him as kind of a tank. And you can actually pig push him. You can cause your Hog Rider to push the knight and use him as a tank, soak up a bunch of damage, and provide a little bit more support. And he'll run even quicker than he normally does, so he'll get to the tower even sooner. Alright guys, that is it for tonight's video. Those are the matches that got me up to 4,900, up to Masters League for the first time. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a good night.